Okay, so we're going to jump into the next one, which is MA Translation and Interpreting, or TNI, as we call it for short. So I do that with the language pairs Spanish and Portuguese, and there are also, as Melissa mentioned, other language pairs available as well. So essentially, Melissa's course, MA Translation, is essentially half of what we do in MA Translation and Interpreting, bar a few select modules, but the majority of the content is still there. So we still get the full exposure of what it is to learn how to do specialist translation. And we have weekly specialist translation classes with weekly translation sets. So real-life text compiled by our tutors, which we translate each week. And these are critically assessed down to the most minute kind of errors so that we can really, by the end of the course, iron out our problems and make sure that once we enter the real world directly after the course, if that's what we choose to do in terms of freelancing or working in-house, however you want to work, we want to make sure that we're ready to produce a quality translation that is one that can be relied on in any professional environment. So those translation classes mainly cover sort of specialist terminology focusing around business and economics, but we do occasionally deviate to marketing and tourism, but the majority is focused on business and economics. And this is mainly because this gives us a political insight and economic insight into countries such as what I'm doing in specialist translation in Spain. Not only do we cover the terminology of how to talk about labour reforms or work law changes, that kind of thing, or political shifts, we actually talk about why these changes are happening. What does the labour reform of 2012, for example, mean for Spanish citizens? What does it mean for pensions, etc.? Why is this journalist making a joke like this? Why is this journalist making this insult like this, etc., etc. So we really do go beyond the surface of the text and really trying to do an all-encompassing analysis each time we translate. Moving on to consecutive and dialogue interpreting, this is the interpreting side of the course, of course, and this includes obviously the note-taking consecutive in the first semester, and then both consecutive note-taking, that kind of sort of business style, meeting style interpreting, combined with PSI as well, and dialogue in general, community settings. So in both of those environments we do simulated scenarios where we, first off in the first semester with the more business related things, we watch videos or we watch presentations, and we do 5 or 10 minute long simulated note-taking sessions. With the note-taking, that's something I can't stress enough in our course, is something really, really focused on. We are really encouraged to produce our own system. It's not something that is taught in terms of you must use this symbol or that symbol or this way, etc. We are encouraged to have a margin and follow certain structural patterns, but apart from that, the symbols and the things we use are entirely personal. I could hand my notepad to my tutor, who I've been working with since September, and they wouldn't really understand what I've written, but they would definitely know that it makes sense to me, and they can see from my rendition that it works as well. Now, moving on to the PSI very quickly, like I say, we focus on community settings, so medical, police, and legal, with a huge emphasis on medical as well, because obviously among the other PSI fields, medical is quite a big up-and-coming one alongside legal. We do simulated sessions with that, so our tutors will make sure that they sit down with us, pretend to be the GP, they get other course colleagues to come in and pretend to be a pregnant woman or someone being diagnosed with something extremely serious such as cancer, and obviously we have to make sure that we react appropriately to those kind of situations. And we're also, right from you walk in the door, so obviously our teacher sat there inside pretending to be the GP, we walk in from the door and she's staring at us, and it's like, she's not the teacher anymore, she's this professional that's never seen you in her life, and she's got to suddenly be introduced as interpreter. So right from when you walk in that door, you've got it right down to the handshake, to the hello, I'm the interpreter, I'm going to assist you today, etc. These kind of things are heavily scrutinized, and we work on it bit by bit. So, like I say, this covers broad areas. We've got terminological and circumstantial contacts from community to business to economics, etc. And I can't stress enough, the real-life professionals is a great asset to us. Our teachers are professional linguists, but actually do work with some of your LSP companies as well. And they provide branding advice if you want to go more into freelancing. They provide advice of what events to join, institutes to join, etc. And talking of institutes, there is a huge focus on CPD. We are constantly encouraged to come to events such as this and find out more about the industry, find out how it works, not just, I do the translation, that's it. No, we want to find out what's the project manager's role. We want to find out all kinds of different aspects of the industry, go into voiceover. For example, I was at a CIOL event recently talking about voiceovers and tour guiding and really branching out as much as possible. So that's something we're really encouraged to do. So yeah, that's a pretty much well-rounded overall generalisation of my course. I'm going to hand you over now to my colleague to talk about MA interpreting. Thank you.